EU projects in Northern Hesse are going to see a huge reduction of EU funds, and the German Association of Cities, the German County Association and the German Association of Towns and Municipalities are calling for the funding period to be maintained even after 2020, they argue, because of the exit of the United Kingdom from the European Union. Future budget cuts in the EU must be expected, which could mean that the available funds are significantly reduced, especially in economically more developed member states. They signed a policy statement on cohesion policy which supports hundreds of thousands of projects in Europe to receive funding from the European Regional Development Fund and the Cohesion Fund. Although it is rarely discussed in Brussels or Berlin, Germany is becoming increasingly concerned about losing UK funding and trade. EU-funded projects in Germany are threatened by Brexit. MPs in the town of Bremen, for example, are worried this will lead to less funding for the region and eventually remove the visible benefits of EU membership from the area. This could potentially fuel support for the far-right anti-globalist Alternative für Deutschland AfD, they claim. MP from the centre-left SPD party Antje Grothe said, "If you go outside to the river, you can see what the EU has done, so people experience the EU as something positive." Wednesday, January 31, 2018, British Prime Minister Theresa May speaks during a joint press conference with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. But the moment you cut Western Europeans' cohesion funds, they won't see the benefits they have. Former president of the Federation of German Industries, BDI, roughly the equivalent of the British CBI, Hans Olaf Henkel, said Brexit will negatively impact on the continent. He said, "It is so obvious, Brexit will result in a lose-lose situation for both Britain and the EU." Thursday, January 11, 2018, protests kick off in Sofia as Bulgaria takes over its first presidency of the European Council to negotiate a trade agreement with a new partner like Canada or Japan is one thing, but to disentangle trade relationships of thousands of companies which have grown over 40 years is quite another. Existing complex logistic chains, supplier and customer relationships would be suffering from Brexit, regardless whether soft or hard Brexit, with and without longer adjustment periods. Mr. Henkel cites a study from consulting firm Deloitte that sales of carmakers in the single market will decrease by 20% in the case of Brexit. GETTY MPs in Bremen are worried about the rise in according to the study, sales losses will drop to the level of the financial crisis in 2008 in the case of a hard Brexit. The study also reports that 60,000 jobs in Germany's car industry are dependent on these exports, and 18,000 of these jobs are endangered by a hard Brexit. The main reason for this loss would be the price collapse of the British pound, which leads to an increase in German car prices in the UK. Getty. Hans Olaf Henkel said Brexit will be a lose-lose situation. Cars made in Germany could become 21% more expensive in the UK after a hard Brexit, according to the study. He added, "We appeal to all responsible politicians in Britain as well as on the continent to help avoid that two high-speed trains are running towards each other on the same track, together with the significant negative impact of Brexit on the remaining 27 countries, justifies the EU offering Britain a deal which avoids a tragedy of historical dimensions."